So then we're joined today by legendary trainer Robert Garcia. Obviously, Anthony's watching him closely for when he's started his training career. So, Robert, thanks for tuning in.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No problem. No problem. So, chaps, this week's news are quite a little bit happening, even though there's no actual fights this week. Andy Ruiz goes to Reynosa. Was that a surprise move, do you think, Anne, or something you expected?
Well, we've actually spoke about this sort of the last few weeks, hasn't it? And I think it seemed like Ruiz stylistically, he had a great job with Manny Robles, and I thought that, I don't know, I think Robert could answer this more. I think you see the way a lot of sort of Team Canelo fights, with the exception of Ryan Garcia, you would think that Andy Ruiz is suited there. He worked well with Eddie Rionzo, sort of fighting in a similar way sort of to Canelo, the smaller guy, looking to come underneath. But I'm not really surprised. It seemed to people like the move was definitely going to happen. And I think Ruiz now, obviously, from the Joshua fight, is a huge name. He could, Robert might disagree, I don't know, but he could go to almost any trainer in the world. I think almost any coach would want to work with a former heavyweight champion of the world and someone who's looking to get back there. And he's got a great chance for it if he can dedicate himself to becoming world champion again. But I'm not surprised at all that he's gone with Eddie Rionzo. I'm not sure what Robert thinks on that.
Look, what I think that in the case of Andy Ruiz, it was more about himself. How much he really wants it, from his win when he became champion to his to the rematch. It was just totally different. From what we hear here in California. Yeah. He wasn't training. He was partying a lot. Wasn't even responding calls to his trainer. So I don't think it was due to the trainer not being able to train him, because he made him a world champion. I think it's more himself. He needs to really, really want this again. He needs to dedicate himself. And I think Eddie Reynoso is a really good choice. What Eddie Reynoso has been doing with Canelo is unbelievable. From Canelo coming to the United States for the first time a few years ago, when he fought Mayweather, still didn't have that much experience, to now his defense, his combinations, everything has improved so much. And I think Eddie Reynoso is a great trainer. And we see a little bit of improvement in Ryan Garcia and those guys that he started working. So I think it was a good choice. But if Andy doesn't have the dedication and doesn't have the hunger, then ain't no trainer gonna do any difference anyways.
That's what I thought, and you'll probably know better than me out there, Robert. But by his own admission, he's had discipline problems, anti-Andy, in terms of discipline with food, discipline with training. You think it'll be tolerated in that camp if he starts swaying off the path a little bit, or do you think it'll be a quick goodbye if he doesn't really put his nose to the grindstone?
No, look, Eddie's gonna be strict with him. I'm sure Eddie's not gonna take him, if he doesn't want to take it seriously. Eddie Reynoso he's taking out these guys, like Neri as a 118 pounder. He's taking on, guys that might not be even making a lot of money. So he's not really doing it for the money, because he's already getting paid very, very well with Canelo himself. Other trainers would say, I don't need nobody else. I don't want to waste my time with a 118 pounder with Andy Ruiz, who doesn't really care about his career, but he's challenging himself. I think Eddie Reynoso is challenging himself to be able to prove the world that it's not just Canelo, that he could do the same with many other fighters. And I think he's got the skills, the knowledge to do it. And it's going to be a challenge for him too, to bring Andy back after a very disappointing performance. I think he's challenging himself to bring him back and perform better than what the boxing world expects.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed it works out for him. Like Andy seems a really nice kid, and it's been a great story, his ride, hasn't it, so far? So let's hope he does it.
Look, any young fighter, especially, in Andy Reid's case, this is the way I see it. I don't know him very well, but from my only experiences with other fighters, Andy Reid was already, was a good contender. Never really made it. He lost a title fight. Was never really considered the one of the best heavyweights in boxing, and then he gets an opportunity, becomes world champion, millions of dollars. He's getting the attention from everybody, all over the world. So his life changed, and he grew up poor. He grew up in a neighborhood where he didn't grow up with somebody next to him that was educated, that could give him good advice. So just like any young fighter having millions of dollars in their bank account, made a lot of mistakes, but he enjoyed it. Hopefully he gets his thing straight now. He already did it. He already enjoyed it. He already learned from it and paid a big price for it. So hopefully he gets his career back, and I think he could still become a world champion, but he really needs to do it himself.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Correct.
So last week we spoke a little bit, didn't we, Ant, about everybody going nuts, saying Mike Tyson he was smashing pads to pieces and looked $1 million. And then to follow that up this week, James Toney's done a video saying he'll box Tyson, and then Evander Holyfield's joined in and said he'll come back. And I don't know what you two think, but I do not see any of them three. Even doing an exhibition, I just don't want to see him in a boxing ring.
Crazy. Yeah, you're talking about three legends of the sport there, three of the, three Hall of Famers. We don't want to see them in any kind of. It was great to see. I was saying last week, Robert, it was great to see Mike Tyson looking healthy, looking fit, showing he's still got it in the pads or bags, but it's only the views or the opinions of very uneducated people who want to see them in a boxing ring, again, in my opinion.
Look, I see all this, and a lot of people getting excited, and Mike Tyson, could knock out any heavyweight in boxing right now, and that's people that don't really know boxing. We know Mike Tyson. Is a strong fighter. He always had great speed, but 3 seconds in a video doesn't say much. You got to fight a 10-round fight, 12-round fights, and it's going to be very, very difficult. He's 53 already. He hasn't fought in I think 15 years or whatever it is. Man, I'm 45. I might consider making a comeback, and I haven't fought in 19 years already. So, it's just, what fans would like to see. Me personally, as a fan, I always like Mike Tyson. I wouldn't mind seeing him in the ring, but not in a fight against a real solid top contender. I think maybe as a an exhibition like Chavez Senior's been doing. They do exhibitions and they're playing around, they're having fun, something like that. But any type of real fight, I don't recommend for Mike Tyson to do.
No, I mean, somebody asked me earlier this week. They went, "Oh, what do you think? Could he beat most kids in top 25?" And I said, if anybody stands in front of him with his hands down, even if they're in top 10, and Mike absolutely unleashes on him for 5 seconds, he probably will down. But as soon as they move the feet and start moving around and boxing, it all goes out the window. But it's just caught fire in it now with a lot of ex-champions and great fighters saying, "Well, if he's doing it, then I'm going to do it. I'm going to come back." But it's not something we want to see.
Like I said, I'm 45. I'm actually considering it.
We'll have a whip round and see if we can get enough purse money ready for you and get back.
You're still doing junior lightweight, Robert, for the comeback? How you move up to lightweight?
Don't even say that weight division, man. You know what? No, it would have to be somewhere around maybe cruiserweight.
Well, it's warm where you are. You can sweat a bit off. It should be a bit easier for you. This week, UFC returned. They had a big show at the weekend, the first sporting event, really. I don't know about in America, Robert, but definitely that we've seen over here. What do you think to it coming back so soon? It got quite a bit of negativity because I saw one of the kids who were on the show, and I think
tested positive, didn't he?
Yeah, him and both his team members, his corner team, they all tested positive the day before the fight. So it's it's come back, but not without its complications. You think it was too soon?
No,
Look, I don't really think it was too soon. I just think it was. I think it was. You know, they took the right precaution. They did the test. One of them tested positive, so they pulled him out of the card. The card continued. I think boxing is gonna. I think we're gonna have to do the same with boxing. You know, there's so many athletes right now that haven't made millions and millions of dollars to be able to stay comfortable and make it, and still go through these months. I think the fighters need to fight, and with the precaution that UFC did, you know, testing the fighters and the team. I think that's what boxing needs to do. Any promoter's gonna have to do that. You know, they're gonna have to bring back boxing, and we all need it back.
yeah, I think what Robert said there as well, and I don't know if you're a fan of the UFC, but they put on a really good card as well. They put on a really good card, but it's like you say, will it be? I don't know, but I suppose it's the same for those guys, Robert. What me and Richard say is, do you know if, and maybe you might be able to answer it a little bit with, so for instance, say one of your fighters gets asked to fight on one of these shows behind closed doors, you know, on TV only. How do you go about getting sparring partners, you know, bringing sparring partners in and stuff like that? Do you know, how much of a hurdle will that be?
Look, we've talked about that, you know, many times with my team, my father, who's very involved in my gym, and as of right now, we've thought about bringing in sparring partners, and the only way we're gonna be able to get my guys ready for the fights is sparring each other. You know, I think one very good thing about my gym is that I have a lot of fighters, and a lot of them they all match up with 2 or 3 in the same you know weight.
Great in-house sparring. Great in-house sparring, Robert.
Exactly. So I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna keep it in-house. You know, when my fighters are in training camp, my training camp is, you know, a house where all my fighters stay. They live together. The cook is there with them, so they're not going home, coming back, or they're staying in training camp. And
so that's in isolation, in effect, Robert, aren't they? You've got to.
Exactly. That's gonna be the only way I can do it. You know, all my guys. You know, if I'm talking about a Jose Ramirez who's been training sparring partners, you know, Mikey's gonna be able to help him. Virgil Ortiz could help. Josito Lopez could help him. And then if I have you know my lightweights, I have a lot of lightweights. I have a few bantamweights, so they all help each other out, and I won't have a problem. You know, I always like to bring guys from outside because, you know, sparring within friends and teammates is never as good as somebody else comes from the outside, but we're gonna have to do it.
Yeah, it might just be a case that ultimately just kind of make, as we say in England, Robert, making the best of a bad job.
Exactly. That's the way.
Everybody can only do what you can do.
Correct.
So what did you think this week, fellas? Did you see a bit of news went around on social media that Floyd Mayweather were going to come back and fight Adrian Broner? And then a couple of days later, Floyd Mayweather did a release saying, "I'm never coming back, I've finished." What do you think?
I think about that talk. We don't want to see Floyd Mayweather box professionally no more. He's, I think every now and again it just comes out there because he's made a lot of comebacks, sort of retired a few times and come back. But I think you can't decide whether the Mayweather Broner, whether they're best mates or whether they dislike each other. I don't know. It seems to come around all the time. But for me, I just think there's far better. There's so many big fights to be made in world boxing, whereas now it's like, you know, Floyd's been one of the greats. Just let Floyd be that now and let him be a retired man, and hopefully talk of a comeback never comes up again. And you know, if Broner's going to continue, then let him chase those big fights.
Yeah, well,
I don't think Floyd will make a comeback, but if he does, you know, he's done it a couple times before, and he comes back to collect a lot of money. You know, Floyd loves the attention, and obviously, you know, if another couple $100 million in his bank account wouldn't hurt him. So, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if he did make a comeback, and then, you know, maybe, you know, you mentioned Broner, maybe help out, you know, get Broner his $10 million payday that he's asking for. You know, that's what Broner's asking for. Yeah. And the only fight that would probably make him that kind of money would be if he fight Floyd. Floyd wanting to help out one of his friends. That would probably be the fight that would probably Mayweather would do. But I don't really see him making a comeback. He already said he won't fight again. I don't really see it. But if he does, like I said, a couple $100 million in his bank account wouldn't hurt him. He loves the attention, and he loves to show the whole world all his money. So it's just the way he is.
Probably needs a new car, doesn't he? He probably needs a new car so he can have another fight. That's what it is.
I'm sure he's got enough money to buy whatever he wants. But sometimes it's also a little maybe for the attention. He sees a lot of things going around with Canelo with $300 million contract, and he always has something to say. Oh, I made that in one fight, or I made that in 2 fights. He always wants to come back saying something. So if somebody, if Canelo makes $100 million in a fight, he's gonna want to say, look, guess what? I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna make 200. So he always likes to be the number one. I remember when his own fighter under contract, Gervonta Davis, became champion, and at that time he was the youngest champion. He was 21, I think Gervonta Davis was. So in an interview, they're interviewing Mayweather and saying, tell me, hey, so your fighter Gervonta Davis is the youngest active champion right now. And instead of saying something good about his fighter, he said, oh, but I was the youngest at one time too, and I beat Gennaro Hernandez to become champion. So instead of praising his own fighter, taking credit away from him to get himself some credit.
Still the Floyd show.
That's the way Mayweather is, and that's what he does. If he does return, just to give us another exhibition fight and make a lot of money.
Yeah. The news.
Robert, we spoke last week on the show. We did quite a big part, myself and Johnny, about these rumours going around that Joshua against Fury could be close to being made, and it could be in Saudi Arabia. We all said, and more than anybody, because he wants it to be in Manchester, where he's from, but we all said it'd be really bad for British boxing if that fight weren't in Britain. And then this week, another story's come out that also China are looking at it. What do you think to that fight happening and it not being in Britain, it being in a different country? Do you think it'd be a shame for that to happen? I'll not ask Ant. Ant can answer next because I know what he's going to say.
What's Anthony going to say?
I'm going to say, I know it's, Robert, see what your opinion is on this. Like boxing, it's about getting paid. It's about getting paid. But for me, what I was saying last week, it would be a massive shame for the biggest fight in British boxing history not to take place in Britain. It'd be hard. But again, there's going to be people around the fighters saying, listen, you can get paid X amount to fight in Britain, or you can get paid 5 times that amount to go to Saudi or somewhere else. So it's tough. It is tough, isn't it? But I just meant certainly from a fan's point of view, it'd be a shame that it doesn't happen in a football soccer stadium here in the UK.
I agree. I think that fight should be in the UK. It would do great, but nowadays, not like the 80s or 90s where the fighters were proud to become champions and defend their title against the number 1 contender and fight in front of their hometown. Right now, it's all about money, and I'm in this right now. I get paid from fighters, and so I'm okay with it too. Because we're the ones getting paid. Also, for training our fighters. But that fight definitely, if it does happen or ever happen, it has to be in the UK. That's the fans deserve it. And if they decide, okay, well, it's going to be China or it's going to be wherever, it just doesn't look too good for themselves to choose a few more millions of dollars than giving that to their country, their hometowns, because that's where they're from. I think that fight does belong in the UK.
Yeah.
I mean, look, if it takes place at home, it'd be such a buzz about it, and one day it just capture wherever it takes place, it'll still be big news. But I just think you'd lose some of that buzz of who's going. Have you got to get a ticket? Are you going? You just lose all that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, massively. It'd just be a huge lift for the nation, especially what's happening now. That'd be the sport. It'd be the biggest sporting event possibly we could get. So it'd be a huge lift for the nation. But we'll wait and see. We still don't believe it's going to happen next anyway. Both fighters are going to have to be who's in front of them. Whether Fury has to fight Wilder, it looks very likely Joshua's going to have to fight Pulev. So I think we'll be talking about it next year, to be honest.
Well, it's hit a bit of a stumbling block, I saw this week, because Pulev has said that he won't step aside, hasn't he? Now, whether that's a ploy to try and get more money, Robert, maybe, I don't know, but he's come out and said, I'm not bothered what plans they're making, I'm not stepping aside, so maybe it will have to be,
Well, look, that's what boxing needs. You know, those fights that need to be made. You know, sometimes you have a number one contender, and okay, step aside money. We'll give it to somebody else because the fight's gonna be bigger with somebody else. But I think the champions, they need to respect the mandatories. They need to respect their number one contenders. Nowadays, it's all about which fight makes the most money, and which the fighters don't care about fighting the number one contender. They don't care about the rankings. Don't really mean much anymore. Nobody really follows the rankings. Nobody really cares. 30 years ago, everybody started getting ranked number 20. Then they'll move up, win after win. By the time they were number one, they were ready to fight for the title. Nowadays, it's just a business, but it doesn't. It benefits a lot of us. It's something that it's just the way boxing is now. I would like to see it, but everybody's also making a lot more money.
Yeah. See what happens. We'll keep an eye on that. So we might need his passport for China or Saudi Arabia or a rainy night in Manchester, Robert. I don't know which you fancy most.
It would be nice to have a fight. Any of my fighters, fighting in the UK, it would be just unbelievable. I've been there a couple of times for some of my fighters' fights, and it's one of the best experiences. The fans are unbelievable. It's just pretty crazy.
Yeah, we hope it happens here.
No, thank you. Are we going to move on now?
Last bit of news today. The last bit of news from this week, and this, when I woke up and put my phone on and saw this one, I nearly fell out of bed. Oscar De La Hoya challenged. Did you see it? And Oscar De La Hoya challenged Conor McGregor to a fight and said, "I'll knock you out in 2 rounds." Where did that even come from?
I don't know. I hope that they was both having a good time partying over the weekend, and it was just drunken talk. But we'll see. But listen, I don't want to think like that, but Oscar gets himself back in shape. I think you'd fancy him in a boxing fight for sure. He still knows too much, wouldn't he, Robert?
Look, Oscar was great champion, great fighter. He's 47.
Yeah.
If he gets in shape and it's gonna be a 3 or 4 round fight, I think he could handle any MMA fighter, especially in a boxing ring. With boxing rules. If they decide they want to go into a cage, then he'll be in trouble. But Oscar maintains himself in shape. He's had his downfalls here and there, but he's always in shape. He's never been a fighter that gets totally out of shape. He's always looks good in all of his shows. He's always looking good. So I think he could really do it. But we go back to the business right now, the money. It's not about before. Fighters were proud to fight their mandatories, to fight their number one contender. Now it's if Oscar and McGregor do it, it could boxing could be turning into a WWE in the near future.
It does use numbers. It does use numbers on the pay-per-view, wouldn't it? It's crazy. That's the way the world's gone.
It would do really good numbers, and they'll be happy, and everybody would be happy because they made a lot of money. But it is hurting the real boxing warriors that want to go in there and show the fans that they'll fight anybody and they'll die in the ring. We don't see that anymore because it's just a business now.
Do you think it stops the younger kids coming through a little bit with talks of Tyson coming back, De La Hoya will fight McGregor, James Toney will come back and fight? I think it takes the onus off the younger kids trying to find their way in it a little bit, Robert.
I really believe so. There's so much talent right now, so many young fighters. The divisions are stacked with young prospects, but Mayweather announcing he's making a comeback, and Tyson is doing the same. Chavez is doing the same. Now Oscar De La Hoya. It does get a lot of instead of Oscar and Mayweather promoting their young talented fighters, their young prospects, they're promoting themselves, and that's hurting all the younger fighters, because the media, the world is obviously going to listen to whatever Oscar says, and they're going to listen to whatever Mayweather says. So they're leaving their young fighters, their young prospects behind, and I think it's really hurting them.
Yeah, agree.
No, I agree.
Agree totally. Right, do you move on to Robert now?
Yeah. So now, Robert, we're going to move to the man of the moment. It's your turn now. So I know I'm desperately to get stuck into your wealth.
Robert, because obviously we appreciate you giving up your time, and we could be here for hours and hours talking about your fights. But if we just sort of go through it, because obviously we want to get onto your training career. But before a trainer, you become a world champion yourself. Can you just tell us about, first of all, your early professional career? I'm right in saying you started off in Japan, didn't you?
You know what? The story I have is more of like I never really wanted to be a boxer. You know,
Really?
It was never. It was my father. You know, my father loved the sport, and my father loved the sport. And when I was 3-4-year-old, he was already, you know, lacing gloves on me, teaching me the basics. He had me do my first amateur fight when I was 5 years old. You know, I still have my trophy, 1980, my first amateur fight, and I was only 5 years old. You know, at 5 years old, I didn't really know what I wanted. It was just something my dad wanted me to do. And all my amateur career, you know, I always wanted to play other sports, play football, play soccer, but I was never allowed to. Through high school, I would have loved to play baseball in high school. I would have loved to play football. I would have loved to go to prom, to go to all those events. I was never allowed to. So I never really loved to be a boxer. I guess I was talented and I was good enough to become a world champion, but that was never really something I really wanted to do. That's why I retired at 26. And when I retired, I said, I'll never be back in the ring. At 26, a lot of fighters would call me a few years later and would tell me, Robert, you know, you're too young. You know, there's still money out there. You can go do something. It just doesn't catch my attention. I never really liked it. Now as a trainer, I love it. You know, I love what I'm doing. I enjoy every minute of it. I love the traveling. That's one thing that I really love. I love to travel, and everywhere I go, I enjoy it. You know, I could go out. I don't have to be on a diet. I could go out, have a beer if I want to have a beer, stay up late if I want to, and that's something I never did when I was a fighter.
Yeah, the discipline, like say, don't miss the discipline.
When you stopped at 26, Robert, what were your dad's reaction? Were you disappointed, or were you okay, or?
You know, when I decided, it was after my last fight. Right after the fight, I won. I stopped the guy, I think, in the 6th round, and walking back to the locker room, my team, everybody was happy because I got a win, and everybody was excited. But I wasn't happy. Throughout the whole fight, I was thinking to myself, what am I doing inside the ring? I didn't want to hit my opponent. I just didn't want to fight anybody anymore. During the fight, it came through my mind to just walk out of the ring and call it quits. But it was on a big card. I think Fernando Vargas was going to be the main event on that card. Yeah. So a lot of people from our hometown in Oxnard were there. So I didn't want to walk out. I didn't feel like doing it. So I finished the fight. I stopped the guy. But then on the way back to the locker room, I'm telling you, everybody was happy, got the win, move on to the next one. And I told everybody, I don't think there's going to be a next one. And I never got the desire to do it again. Never have.
Play. Wow, that's a fascinating story. That because I really thought that, you know, you're coming from the boxing family, you're then gone into becoming a coach. I just thought you would have loved the sport from day one, but it's mad. So the break away from the sport, Robert, from being a fighter, winning the world title, then the break away from the sport, sort of, that's done you the world of good. Now you're enjoying the sport more than ever as a coach.
I do as a coach, you know, I love it. I study fights. I love watching you know, fighters like some of my favorite fighters like Sugar Leonard, Orlando Canizales, who very few even mention him as a top fighter. A lot of people don't even know him, but Orlando Canizales had great skills, and he's one of my favorites. You know, he's you know, from Texas, and I was, you know, I was gonna be one of my favorite fighters. You know, Duran fights. I love watching. I love studying sport. I love watching different fights just to learn little things from legends like that. But as a fighter, I'm telling you, I never. It was more like a hate relationship with my dad in boxing, because he pretty much forced me to do it since I was a 5-year-old. You know, 5-year-olds should be out playing with friends in the neighborhood. I wasn't. I was stuck in boxing, and never really had the opportunity to do much as a kid. So young at 26, I say that's it, no more. But now as a trainer, like I'm telling you, I love it. I got the support of my family, my wife, my sons. They're all involved. You know, and now it's a family. Now it's really a family love for the sport, but it wasn't when I was growing up.
Yeah, I see that.
Did it cause any friction between you and your father when you were growing up? Did you have times when you said, "Dad, I don't want to do it. I've had enough of it," or "I don't want to"? Did it cause friction between you?
No, I would have never been allowed to say that to my dad. You know, my dad was very hard. You know, I love my dad, and you know, and I thank him for raising me like that, because, you know, I did become a world champion. You know, I did have a couple of nice paydays to maybe buy my house and stuff like that. So I thank him for being that strict with me and forcing me to do it, because otherwise, I don't know what I would have done. You know, school, whatever it is. You know, it would have been something that I have no idea what I would have done. But so I thank him. But yeah, you know, whenever I felt like saying no, I never did, because I wasn't allowed to say no. I just needed to continue, even though I didn't want to or I didn't like to. I just had to continue. I was not allowed to say no.
I could do it. I could do with your dad coming over here and looking after my girls for a few days.
Look, it's, you know, I'm not the only one. There's so many fighters, former champions, trainers that probably have similar stories, because this boxing, you know, boxing world is difficult. There's so many surprises. You know, other sports, you know, they get scholarships. They get, you know, they go in there and they get hundreds of millions of dollars on contracts, stuff like that. Boxing is totally different. You know, boxing is more of a poor man's sport, and you know, brave. You got to be brave. You're going in there risking your life every time you're fighting. So we got to respect every fighter out there. But I think a lot of fighters, a lot of trainers, a lot of managers have similar stories to what, you know. I say, you know, I didn't grow up loving the sport, and people don't know that, because I've done it my whole life. So people might think that's all I want. That's all I wanted when I was a kid. No, that's not what I wanted when I was a kid, but I was forced to box.
Right. Could you ask what the reason was, Robert? Did you start your professional career over in Japan?
Yes, my first 3 fights were in Japan.
Yeah, it was in Japan. How did that happen?
Look, when I was like 15, I started. My dad would drive me to LA, to Los Angeles, every weekend to get good sparring. And one of the fighters that I started sparring was Gennaro Hernandez. Rest in peace, Gennaro Hernandez.
Great fighter, featherweight.
Great fighter. So we became really good friends. We became really good friends with him, with his father, with Rudy, his brother. We became really friends. So they started helping me out. And when Gennaro fought for the world title in France, I was 16. And I was his sparring partner. I was his main sparring partner. So they flew me to Spain. He beat Daniel Ondas. Something. Well, he became a WBA champion of the world, and I was 16. So when we were in training camp, we were sparring in England and in Spain, and it was France, in France, and Mr. Honda was there, and he seen me
Yes.
spar with Gennaro, and I guess he liked what he seen, but I was only 16 by then. I was 16 by then. He seen it, and he I guess he liked me. So Gennaro's first title defense was going to be in Japan, in Tokyo, and by then I had already turned 17. So I went with them again as a sparring partner, but at the same time, they decided I could turn pro at 17 in Japan. So
Yeah.
I did
not?
my debut over there. Why not? It was a great experience. Tokyo is always has always been very, very, very nice city, and it was a great experience. I turned pro at 17 and had three professional fights in Tokyo before I turned 18. Once I turned 18, then I started fighting in the United States, but it was in Tokyo, in Japan. My first three professional fights.
Wow. Yes. Interesting. So then obviously you'd said there, I'm imagine that you've got a huge following sort of around LA, because a lot of your fights sort of would be around the Los Angeles area. What leading up, and obviously you got moved pretty fast, didn't you? You're still, like say, you was young, you sort of getting into contention to fight for to get yourself into position to fight for a world title. What was the LA fight scene like then? Back then, I know you've got your own gym now in Oxnard. The wild card always comes up. Houston's gym was always around, wasn't it? What was it around like as a young fighter there? Growing up, as you would have been a big prospect in a lot of people's eyes. How was it then? How did you find all that? Even though you wasn't in love with boxing, or did that not really interest you being around the LA fight scene, or what? I was going to ask, what was it like being around it?
Look, I have memories of, I don't know if I was 4 or 5 years old, 6, I don't even remember. I have memories of my dad taking us to see Roberto Duran train. I don't even remember what gym it was, but Roberto Duran, my dad would take me and my older brother to see them train. Pipino Cuevas, Julio Cesar Chavez Sr.
Yes.
My dad loved the sport all the time, and he always wanted his sons to be fighters also. So he would take us to the gyms to see the training. Then when we were training, when I was sparring, Brooklyn Gym was very popular at that time. It's there anymore, but Brooklyn Gym was a very popular gym where all the fighters from the area would join there on Saturdays, and we would do the sparring matches there were probably more like fights because nobody was with each other. So then another gym that I remember, because I had some tough sparrings there with Marco Antonio Barrera and with Eric Morales, Cache Boxing Gym. That also became very popular. Everybody would show up there because they knew that we're going to get good sparring. So my dad would take us every Saturday, and we would get our ass beat by those type of fighters. Fernando Vargas was even younger than me, and he was like 15 when he sparred Yori Boy Campas, and took a beating. Fernando took a beating from Yori Boy Campas, and those type of experience I just can't, I'll never forget, because my dad made us go through all that. We took beatings against the Barreras, the Morales, just to make us better.
Do you know what, Robert? So you've been around so many great fighters over the years. You mentioned them, Barrera, Morales, and obviously you've coached a lot of them. But do you know whether it be you share a ring with them professionally, or whether you in the gym in sparring? Who's the best? Who's the best you've been in with? Would you say most talented?
What was that?
Who's the best fighter you've been in with? Most talented. The most talented fighter that you've been in with, whether it be in the professional ring or whether it be in the sparring. Who's the most talented that you've been in with?
Look, there's a video on YouTube that went viral. We went to LA to Maywood Gym, and at that time we were training Argenis Mendez, and that video went viral. A lot of people have seen it because he sparred what's this guy from Venezuela that they want to fight Ryan? No. They want to fight him with Ryan Garcia.
Oh, Linares.
Linares, yeah.
I know Linares as well.
Ajedis Mendez and Linares had a sparring match in Maywood Gym, and one of our friends was recording, so he put it on YouTube, and that's had so many views. It went viral because that's both very, very talented. So it was a match where you make a mistake and you're gonna get it. So it went back and forth. That was great experience right there, and it was a great sparring match. You know, my brother Mikey sparring Manny Pacquiao for I think it was Manny Pacquiao versus Marquez. One of the 3 or 4 fights that they had was also unbelievable. Or Mikey versus Valero a few times. It was very, very risky.
Or Mikey and Valero spar. I never knew that Mikey and Valero
they
spar.
did. Mikey was like 17 when he was sparring Edwin Valero for one of his fights. And you know, us taking Mike, that's what I'm telling you. My dad would just take us because he wanted us to learn, and he didn't, you know, he didn't really see it in a way where it's too risky. You know, what if Mikey gets hurt by Valero? Valero knocked out a lot of guys in sparring. So my dad didn't see it like that, but he would put us in there, and you're sparring Valero. Mikey had to fight very careful, very smart. You know, luckily he never got hurt by Valero, and I'm pretty sure Valero also worked with him, knowing that Mikey was 16, 17. But you know, those are the experiences we had to go through with my dad, taking us to LA, making a spar of whoever was there. And you know, it was, you know, I was probably like 13, 14, and my dad was already making me spar guys like Gabriel Relas, you know. It was, you know, that's just the way my dad was. But like I'm telling you, I think it helped me become a man younger. It helped me know how to defend myself. And it just made me the person that I am now. You know, I love what I do now. I enjoy it, and I think all that I teach it to my fighters now. It helps me. The good thing that my dad did and the bad things that he would do, I won't do them anymore. You know, I think all that made me learn so much, and it's helping me with my career as a trainer now.
Yeah, but
you know,
some apprenticeship.
Do you know when your dad would stick you in the car and say, "Look, we're going to go and watch Duran train, or we're going to go and watch Chavez Senior train"? Would you like, at that time, would you be like excited thinking I'm going to see him, or would you be thinking, oh no, I don't want
to? No, back then was like, no, I don't really want to go. Why would I want to go? That, you know, I have my 12-year-old, and if I tell him, you know, son, you want to go to the gym with me, you know, see the guys train, he doesn't want to, and I'm not going to force him. I don't want, you know, and he's already 12. I'm not going to force him. You know, if he rather stay home and play on his video games, then I'll let him stay. You know, I don't force him. If he wants to go, then I'll be more than happy to take him. But you know, with my dad, it was more you have to. That's the only option. You have no other option. You know, I don't take it on my dad. I think it was something that helped me become what I am now. So I love my dad, and I you know, I thank him, you know, every day that I see him. I thank him for making me the man that I am. But it wasn't easy.
I can imagine.
Moving on to today and what's happening in boxing today. There's a lot of talk. Mikey's called out Pacquiao for a fight a couple of times. Do you think that's something that could happen, Robert? Is that something you'd like to see?
Look, right now, we just want to see some boxing, you know, and the way it looks, you know, the promoters, they're already, you know, Golden Boy's already talking about coming back July 4th, I believe. Top Rank is already, I think Bob Arum said he wants to do some shows in June. So that's just a good start, a good beginning. I think once that starts, you know, the big fights will start, you know, coming out again. You know, they have to start slowly, obviously with no fans. So I don't know if a Manny Pacquiao versus Mikey Garcia would be something that they would even consider doing without fans. I think you do need the crowd, because sometimes the gates make a lot of money, and that's something that helps for the fighters to make the purses that they want. And you know, nowadays fighters are making ridiculous money, and to be able to pay them that kind of money, they need a gate. You know, the gate. You know, Tyson Fury versus Wilder.
Yeah. Style-wise, is that a fight you'd like for Mikey though? Pacquiao style?
No, definitely. That's at welterweight, that's probably the only fight that we would really consider. Myself, my dad, Mikey wants to fight anybody at welterweight, but us fighting Manny Pacquiao. Manny's not taller than Mikey. I think Mikey's a little bit taller than him. And, Manny is fast. He is strong. But I think they would match up good for a very competitive fight. It won't be easy for neither of them. It would be a very dangerous fight for both. But that's a fight that we will really consider. Any other top welterweight, I think they might be too big and too strong. I think Manny, he moved up in so many weight classes that doesn't make him that much bigger than Mikey. So I think that's the only fight that I would really, really consider at welterweight. At the end, Mikey's the one that makes the decision, so we have to support him. But me personally, the welterweight fight would only be against Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah. Would you prefer, Robert? Would you prefer Mikey at 140? 140 is the weight you think for Mikey, or would you even think about 135?
Look, 140 would probably be ideal for Mikey.
Yeah.
We've talked about it too, and he knows he could really make 140. But Mikey's a little, he likes to take risky fights. He wants to prove that he could compete against the top welterweights. At 140, I don't think he sees any big name to where he could get credit for. That's just, and then he also knows that we have Jose Ramirez, who is looking.
Yes.
He has 2 titles, and Jose Ramirez is looking at a future fight against
Josh Taylor. Yeah,
Josh
great
Taylor.
fight.
So Mikey doesn't want to jump into 140 and know that he's going to have to compete with Jose to see who gets that Josh Taylor fight in order to become champion. Mikey doesn't want to fight Jose, and will never fight Jose if Jose's training with me. So that's the reason also Mikey wouldn't really want to go to 140, because besides that, he'll never win a title there, because he's not going to fight Jose, and he doesn't want to take the fight away from Jose either, because that's the fight Jose won. So I think 147 is that's why he's choosing to fight.
Where's he stayed at 147?
But I also at 147 I also have Virgil Ortiz, who is probably gonna be the best welterweight in a year or two.
Unbelievable fighter.
He's a real deal. And and so it's hard for Mikey to make a decision at 140 because of Jose. 147, there's a lot of options, but I would prefer the Manny Pacquiao fight before anything else.
Of course.
When me and Anthony were saying before you jumped on the call that when you look down the roster of kids you've trained, it's a insane list of boxers you've had in your gym, Robert. Which of the kids will really stand out to you?
Yeah.
Look, Virgil already been, prospect of the year and all that. I think he's already considered among the best welterweights in the division. I have a couple young fighters that are fighting 8 rounds that will be recognized very well. One of them is Raymond Murataya. He's 9-0. That kid could really fight. I think he's going to be one of the special ones, and he's a lightweight. But I have a 108 pounder, which, like I'm telling you, a lot of media, TV channels don't really consider their fights. But Jesse Rodriguez, 108 pounder, he's ranked number 3 in the world. He's 10-0.
Yes,
that kid could fight. He's going to be special. In his weight division, there's not a lot of attention, not a lot of big paydays, but that kid can really fight. Jesse Rodriguez, you guys haven't seen him, look him up. He's a great fighter. He's only 10-0, and he's ranked number 3 in the world already. So I think he'll probably be able to get a title fight sooner than later. His brother Joshua Franco, 115 pounder, also great fighter that I think is going to get a title fight hopefully before the end of the year if everything goes back to normal. I have a lot of young fighters. I have close to 30, so I can't mention them all.
What's it? You've had some massive names in gym, Robert, with you over your years as a trainer. What's it like? You must have had some funny ups and downs controlling everybody's ego when everybody were in around the same time. What's
That,
that
that,
been?
that- but it's a good, it's good to have that. I enjoy having, finding my fighters from the amateurs. All these kids that I'm talking about are kids that I know from the amateurs.
Yeah.
That my son Junior, Robert Junior, he looks at the tournaments and tells me, look, this kid, that kid, so and so. So we reach out to them. So we bring them from the amateurs to the pros, to a
Yeah.
good promoter, whichever one they fit in better. If it's Top Rank, Golden Boy, Eddie Hearn, whoever fits them better, that's where I put them in. And we want to guide them from their first amateur fight to whenever they become world champions. That's the best feeling. I've had offers of fighters calling me, former world champions or top contenders. Robert, would you consider training me? I'm too busy right now because I enjoy more, the guys that I start from the amateurs,
Yeah.
my brother Mikey, or guys that are gonna bring me a good challenge, like Abner Midas. When Abner Midas called me, a lot of people were already thinking about Abner should be retired. He shouldn't be fighting anymore. He's gonna get hurt. We came back and our first fight together, we won a major title, when he became champion against Jesus Cuellar. So those are the challenges that I like, it's something that makes me proud of my work. And even though maybe I've rejected a few great big paydays, I'd rather consider a young challenge that's going to make me proud of my work. And to me, that's more important.
Fair play, fair play. Brandon, do you know, Robert, has it been hard for you where, I'm sure it's happened a few times where you've had to tell a fighter that, you love, like say you've had from being young, to tell that fighter, no, you think it's time. Do you struggle to come to that, or is that a decision that once you've made it in your head that you tell them, like, no, listen, we're done, it's over for you? Do you struggle to do that as a trainer?
It's a very, very hard decision.
I can imagine.
Especially when the fighter is around nothing but world champions, top contenders, and you have to tell one of them, look, it's time. I learned this from my father, and my father has, I still remember this. My father, when we were still back in Oxnard, there was a fighter that turned pro and got knocked out in his pro debut. So then the kid came back to the gym, started training again, and told my dad, I want to get ready for my second fight. I think I can still do it. I want another opportunity. And my dad told him, look, I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to tell you what I think, and I don't think you should be fighting anymore. Look, I'd rather hurt you right now with words, giving you advice, than inside the ring. I don't want to make the phone call to your wife and your kids telling them in the hospital that you got hurt by making a mistake to give you another opportunity. So from that experience years ago when I was a kid, my dad has told us that story. So now there's been a few times where I have to do that to some of the fighters, and it's very hard, very difficult.
I can imagine.
I try to give them the opportunity as much as I can. We started our own promotion, so that helps also with Garcia Promotions. It helps us bring some of those fighters to give them another opportunity to maybe pick the right opponent. I'm never going to take my one of those fighters to a top promoter as an opponent, because they will get hurt. But if we're doing our own shows with Garcia Promotions, we get to pick the opponent, and we get to give them another win or two, and then maybe 2 or 3 wins, and tell them, look, we got you back 2 or 3 wins. That should be it. I don't want to get you hurt. Then we'll give them that talk. But I do want to give them the last opportunity, but it's got to be us making the right
terms.
Yes.
Yeah.
Robert, I wanted to ask you, do you know, because you did retire young, and obviously, like you said, you had a bit of a love-hate relationship with boxing. How quickly did you decide that you wanted to start training fighters? When we'd gone through it for all those years, not wanting to do it and not wanting to be in a boxing ring, how quickly did you decide when you packed in, well, I'm going to start training?
Look, my last fight was when I was 26, and I had, my father as my trainer. He was very strict, so I never experienced going out with friends, partying, having fun. So at 26, after 26 is when I tried my first beer, and there was moments where I'm like, man, this is fun. Forget boxing. I never want to deal with boxing at all. So it took maybe a year and a half when my dad was running the amateur gym in Oxnard. He ran the boxing gym. So I decided, like a year and a half after, I decided I want to go help out and help out with the kids. My only intention was to help out with the amateurs, but little by little, I started liking it, enjoying it, going to amateur tournaments, and the traveling, where I didn't have to go to bed early, where I didn't have to make weight. I could drink a beer if I wanted to drink a beer at nights. So it started catching my attention. So my dad told me, look, I think you're ready to maybe start training some professionals. So there was two of my very good friends, still two of my best friends, Felipe Campa and Arturo Barraza, were fighting professional, and my dad was training them. So my dad told me, take this too and see how you like it, see how well you do. And I did, and they were my best friends, still are my best friends. And we had fun. We had fun traveling. We had fun going to fights. We won a lot of fights. Then we lost a couple too, but it was just fun. And that's when I fell in love with being a boxing trainer, the traveling, the having fun. And that's when I made the decision. I went to a national tournament with Mikey. I met Victor Ortiz there,
Yeah.
Brandon Rios, and those were my two first prospects that I brought in, signed to Top Rank as a trainer and manager, and it all started there. Victor Ortiz and Brandon Rios were my first two professional fighters that I signed as a trainer and manager.
That's a great first two. Both went on to win world titles. I was actually in the corner when Brandon Rios defended his world title. Well, he missed the weight, but honestly, I was actually saying to Richard before it, you must have some crazy stories from like fighters, in the gym, and certain fighters who would have different, characteristics. But I remember seeing Brandon Rios. It was when Cotto Margarito 2 was at the Garden. And honestly, you see, making weight hurts some fighters. And I think it was pretty well documented. Brandon would struggle, wouldn't he? And I remember seeing him at Madison Square Garden get on the scales, and you almost had to carry him off the scales.
Yeah.
And the next day, I seen him sort of in the hotel, the Madison Square Garden, the fight hotel where everyone was stopping. And I said to Richard before, I thought, everyone was a little excited because Brandon looked really weak the day before. I seen him a few hours before the fight. Brandon was having pictures, and I thought, oh my God, is that his brother? Is it his big brother? He looked a different guy. He looked huge, and I thought, oh wow, we're in trouble here. And it was just a hard man, like a strong man, Brandon Rios, but obviously much more than that. He's a great inside fighter. Have you got any mad stories with some of the fighters you've trained? Because you must have trained some characters, Brandon Rios, you mentioned Ortiz, Madonna. There must be so many crazy stories.
Especially with Brandon Rios, I remember that fight there, and
it was crazy.
We must carry him into the scale because he was.
I seen it. I watched it. I was like, dead, wow.
We truly believe we were in trouble for that fight, but this guy just has a tremendous heart, man. Brandon has got a tremendous heart where he recovered, from after the weigh-in. You've seen him; he didn't even look the same anymore because he recovered, and he came in there to give the boxing fans a great war. I think he stopped him in the 11th round.
Yeah, something like that.
It was that's just the way Brandon was, But stories with Brandon, Brandon was always in and out of trouble. So there was a few earlier in his career where he would fight a couple times, and then he would want to go home because he's originally from Garden City, Kansas. So he would go home, and I would let him go for a couple of I would talk to Top Rank, and they would tell me, okay, he's fighting so-and-so date, 5-6 weeks from now. And I would call Brandon. Hey, Brandon, you need to come back. You're going to fight, in 6 weeks. Oh, okay, cool. Give me a couple of days. So I would give him a couple of days. So then I'd be waiting for him, and no call, no nothing. Then I would get a phone call. Hey, bro, can you please call Top Rank and have them cancel my fight. Like, what do you mean cancel your fight? He says, yeah, my house is surrounded by cops, by police, and I'm gonna get arrested. I'm going to jail. What did you do? I said, don't worry about it. I'm gonna be in jail for a couple of weeks. So, you know, those are the stories that I would have to deal with Brandon. You know, he would, you know, get in and out of trouble.
Character.
Bail him out of jail to bring him back to California. We would have to get special permits for him to come and train to be able to fight. You know, it was, you know, it was. Now we laugh about it, but at that time it was kind of sad. You know, thinking that so much talent was ruining his career. But you know, he did good. You know, he listened. He finally understood that this was his career, and he did good. Became champion. Made a lot of money. You know, had great fights. You know, fought Manny Pacquiao, even though he lost and lost almost every round of the fight. But he made a lot of money, and he's doing really good right now. His wife, very smart, saved up all their money, invested it right. You know, he's doing great.
Great news. Great news.
He's won.
Yeah, he's won. All right.
You know, we talk almost every day. Brandon is one of those fighters that continues to call me almost every day. Every chance we get, we see each other because, you know, we're 2 hours away from each other. But every time we get a chance, we visit each other because, you know, he became more like my little brother, you know, and he loved my whole family, my wife, my kids, my sisters. They all love Brandon. Brandon became part of the family, and you know, all the experiences we had, him not making weight a few times, you know, going to jail, getting in trouble, street fights. There was so many street fights where sometimes I was with him and he would get into a street fight and he would get me involved also. Now that we go back, we enjoy all that. We enjoy the stories. We love going back and talking about it, and you know, those were just great memories that we're never gonna forget.
Brilliant.
No, thank you.
Well, Robert, thanks ever so much for joining us this week. It's been an absolute pleasure to catch up with you.
Thank you, Robert.
Hopefully, you'll not have to bail me and Anthony out of jail anytime soon. We'll try.
Look, at this time with the fighters that I have right now, I don't have any Brandon Rios, you know, because Brandon Rios, you know, from drinking to getting high to getting in trouble, going to jail, that was Brandon Rios. You know, Brandon Rios. Before we cut this, you know, Brandon Rios reminds me a little, not as much, but kind of like the life of Johnny Tapia. You know, Johnny Tapia had, you know, his drug problems with heroin and stuff like that. But, you know, Brandon never had that, you know, was never that bad in the situation. But it was in and out of trouble, street fights, some drugs and alcohol involved, things like that. Never to the point where it was, you know, the Johnny Tapia's life, but it kind of does remind me of Johnny Tapia's story. But you know, we love that kid. You know, he's part of my family, and he always will be.
Have we got? You have to thank Brandon for your grey hair. Then do we thank him?
Definitely. Hey, thank you guys. Thanks for having me. It was you know, great. You know, we could go on for hours if you guys want. I have to go to the gym pretty soon, so we can't stay here that long. But you know, it was great. You know, good talking to you guys.
Thank you, Robert.
We'll catch you soon, Robert. We'll catch you
soon. All the best. Take care.
We'll do this more often.
Definitely. Take care, mate.
All right. Thank you, guys. Take care.
Hope you enjoyed Blackout Barber Show. Please like and subscribe, and if you've got any complaints, remember my name's Richard Potson. Just say that's Jones.